Same thing happens in Hebrew. There are independent clauses, and these are clauses that contain a subject and a verb and express a complete thought. Okay, store that away in your mind. Independent clauses express a complete thought. They stand alone. They don't need anything else to express the complete thought. Example, Jim studied in his room for his chemistry exam. It's a complete thought. It's not giving you the impression that you're missing any information in order to completely understand it. Okay? It stands alone. It's complete. There are dependent clauses, though, that don't stand alone, don't stand by themselves. You have a subject and a verb, but you don't have a complete thought. If I add one word to what you just saw, when Jim studied in his room for his chemistry exam, what? I mean, it feels like there's something that is supposed to come afterward to complete the idea. Just by adding that one word, it has a sense of incompletion. It has a sense of lacking something else. That, okay, finish the idea. So you have two kinds of clauses. Complete contained idea and something else that depends on something else, some other part of what you're reading for you to get a complete idea. So here we have them side by side or juxtaposed. The only difference is the one word when. When Jim studied in his room for his chemistry exam, he was able to concentrate. Now, we have the full picture. We have the full idea. And in fact, the underlying part here, he was able to concentrate, that actually could stand by itself. He was able to concentrate. You could put something before it, too. His brother stayed away when Jim studied in his room for his chemistry exam. That gives you a complete, and it gives you a fullness. You're not looking for something else, which is the basic idea. In a dependent situation, a dependent clause, you feel like you've got to have something else to get the full idea. Now, we know this. This is English grammar. We can intuitively feel when we need more information and when we don't. This same situation happens in the first 3 verses of Genesis. There are a series of clauses, and the question is, which ones can stand alone, and which ones depend on the others for their meaning? And I'll show you how that works in a second. So again, we have something at the end, something at the beginning that completes the thought. So the question is, independent or dependent? And once we know that, we'll know what the main idea of the cluster, the full idea, the full sentence or sentences. We'll know what the main idea is or isn't. We'll know what describes what and what is described. Here's the first verse of Genesis. Does that sound like a complete idea? In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Sure, it can stand alone. Verse 2 starts, "Now the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep." Complete or incomplete? How many vote for complete? How many vote for incomplete? Why the feeling of incompleteness? The first word, now. If we start with the word now, or even and, especially if it was and, some translations have and, that just sort of puts it in your and. Well, that means something like came before. Now, I wouldn't say obscures that, because you still get the same feeling that well, I really wasn't supposed to start here. There's probably something else that came before. Okay, just a little bit of a feeling there in English. After this group of words, this clause, we have, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. And we have and at the beginning, so that sort of gives us a clue that it belongs with something else, something that preceded it. And of course, we have the first half of verse 2. And together, they do rather nicely. We have clear thoughts, but it's that word now, okay, that just sort of, I don't know if I should take it independently or dependently. It's just, I don't know what to do with it. You know, if we took the word now off, the earth was, then it would just feel like it's standalone. But now it's there, and it's there in Hebrew as well. Verse 3, and God said, let there be light. Okay, the and implies continuation, but by itself, let there be light. That's a complete thought. And there was light. Notice I've taken the punctuation off the ends deliberately. Okay. And there was light. Okay? Now here's one way to look at the first three verses. I have the second verse in blue for a reason. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. And God said, let there be light. And there was light. What is the role of verse 2? Does it proceed from verse 1? Or does it do something else? Do we have a sequence, a chronology, or do we have something else? Mike, you look like you want to...
Feels like there's a jump in time.
Now creates a question. Some sort of, is it a sequence or not? Go ahead. Okay, now there's an important word, an idea, backgrounding. What is being backgrounded? Is verse 1 being backgrounded? Or is verse 3 being backgrounded? In other words, do we have a linear sequence of events? Is that how we're supposed to look at it? Or do we have, okay, first verse 1 happens, God creates the heavens and the earth. Then the earth was without form and void, as though that's the result of verse 1. And then verse 3 follows. It's a linear sequence. 2 is the result of 1, 3 follows 2. No kidding, Mike, it's 1, 2, 3. All right? You can count. Is that the way we're supposed to look at it? Now, traditionally, that is how Genesis 1 through 3 has been understood. 2 is the result of verse 1. That's the traditional interpretation. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That is viewed as the first creative act in the traditional way of interpreting it. God does something in verse 1. The result of that is the conditions we see in verse 2. The writer kind of lets us know what the result of God's creating in verse 1 was. And then he moves on to God getting down to business in verse 3. Okay, so God creates the heavens and the earth, and oh, by the way, when he did that, the earth was formless and empty, and all these conditions. And then God said, let there be light, and we get down to business. Okay, that's the traditional way of looking at it. Let me go back here a second. So we have independent clauses in verses 1 and 3, and dependent in 2, and the dependent is the result. That's the relationship. So here I have grayed out in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That's the translation we're used to. But now let's play around a little bit. What if I translated it this way? When God began to create the heavens and the earth, say, well, that's cheating. You can't do that. Yes, I can. I have a PhD in Hebrew. I can do whatever. No, seriously, if you look in the Jewish Publication Society translation of Genesis 1:1, that's it. When God began to create the heavens and the earth. Now, is that a complete thought or an incomplete thought? That one's certainly incomplete because it's prepping something to follow. You're being prepped as a reader. So when you put the word when in front of it, you know that it's just leading to something. It's not an independent thought or act. It's leading to one that you haven't gotten to yet. Now let's put them side by side, or I'll get there eventually. We have, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Again, that's the traditional translation that most of us are used to. The Hebrew consonants are as follows. You know, Hebrew, of course, was not written with any vowels. I have added a vowel here in red. If I was a Hebrew scribe using the vowel system that was invented at around the 8th century AD, those are the only vowels we have, you know, those little dots and squiggles that you see on a Hebrew text, the vowel system. If I wanted to be sure that my reader would understand I'm talking about the beginning, in the beginning, I would use that little mark that looks like a capital T. And it would be pronounced Ba-Reshit. That's called in Hebrew the definite article. Just like English definite article, the word for the. Okay, that's all it is. Now, if I wanted to opt for when God began, it would look this way. Be 2 dots underneath. And that means there is no definite article. It's just another, it's a vocal cue that we don't have a definite article here. That would be Be-Reshit. Which one do you think is in your Hebrew Bible? The Hebrew Bible that like everybody uses now, that has come down to us from centuries ago. The Dead Sea Scrolls do not have vowels. Vowels only start again in the Middle Ages, late antiquity. Which one do you think we get in Hebrew texts that have vowels? The capital T, how many vote for capital T? We've got to vote for capital T. How many vote for the 2 dots? The indefinite one. We've got 4, well, 2 dots wins, 4-1. No, let me show you. Let me show you which one we have here. I'm going to go to Biblia Hebraica Stuttgartensia. This is the German Bible Society edition. It's Be-Reshit. The translation, when God began to create, is a completely legitimate translation. In fact, it more accurately reflects the Masoretic text, the traditional Hebrew text that we have. Now, you could just as well say, and trust me, some do, well, it didn't have vowels to begin with, so we should put Ba-Reshit in there and be definite in the beginning, first creative act. Sure, you can say that. The only problem is you don't have a single manuscript that does have vowels that has that, like 0. And I bring that up because it's something to store away in your mind, because we're fond, as evangelicals, we're fond of saying things like, oh, those Hebrew scribes were so good at what they did. The Dead Sea Scrolls show that 99.9% accuracy in transmission and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, they do. Hebrew scribes didn't lose their brains in the Middle Ages. Okay, they're just as good then as they were at the time of Qumran. So it's cheating to just say, well, I like that other vowel better. And I can have that because it's not original. Yeah, you can. But there is no tradition that supports it. And that's what we have for the Hebrew Bible. We have scribal tradition.